Hello and welcome to today's episode of Eurovision, where we're looking at Bulgaria's entry. They're sending Victoria and Growing Up is Getting Old. But will we feel like we've aged after listening to this one? So, to go into kind of a bit of background about Bulgaria at Eurovision, it's been participating since 2005. And now I didn't realise this, but they've actually kind of, up until the last couple of years, before that, they were kind of a bit of the backwater at Eurovision. They kind of failed to qualify for the final eight out of 12 times that they've participated. But over the last couple of years, kind of three quarters of the times that they've participated in the final, they've made it to the top five. So they're kind of starting to make their mark at Eurovision over the past couple of years. In 2016, that's kind of one of my personal favourite Eurovision entries where they had If Love Was a Crime. And in 2017, they placed second with Christian Kostov, who was only 17 at the time, with a Beautiful Mess. We don't have a thing to lose, no matter what they say or do. And then they didn't participate in 2019, but they were set to come back last year with Victoria as well, and she was going to sing Tears Getting Sober. And she's back again this year with Growing Up is Getting Old. So let's have a little listen. So that was Bulgaria's entry for this year. Now, what do we think? James, I'll go to you.
Well, I think I aged when I was listening to it. I'm not going to lie. I liked, right, this is very geeky. We're journalists or journalists to be. I liked the newsreader. That was good in the music video. Aside from that, I thought it was more Annabelle than amazing. I didn't really like it. I don't know. It felt like it dragged, and it. This will make me sound very callous. It felt too emotional for me. Now, stick with me on this. I just feel like it was almost like a sort of retrospective in a way. And I think perhaps when I think of Eurovision, I quite like the sort of upbeat, slightly cheesy, campy songs. And I think some of the ones that are very powerful that aren't like that then do stand out. Like I'm thinking sort of Rise Like a Phoenix, but that had that gravitas with it. Whereas this one I don't feel has that. It lackluster for me, and I didn't really get it. I mean, there's probably listeners, and maybe you as well, will probably have got maybe the message more than I did. But I couldn't get to like it. And the more I listened to it, the more I sort of thought, no, it's my sort of one skip song if it comes on. No, not really for me, to be honest. But yeah, that's about it.
Well, going against the kind of the general response that there's been to Bulgaria's entry, Jack, what are your thoughts?
Well, the day before I turned 18, I'm now 23, so I've aged a little bit since then. But the day before I turned 18, I had an absolute nightmare because I read in one of these adages, or somebody got it on a birthday card or something, a line that it just said, to right this second, you're the oldest you've ever been, but the youngest you'll ever be. And I thought, well, that's depressing. And I thought about it for such a long time because it's such a profound thing that I am, every second, I'm the oldest I've ever been. But then I will never be younger than I am now again because I'm only going to get older. And it was a really depressing thought the day before I turned 18 and I didn't like it at all. And this song evokes the exact same emotion and I do not like it at all. I don't want to be, especially after the year we've had, I don't want to be made to feel miserable and old. That's not what I'm here for. And last year, I mean, we were sort of peak first lockdown when the songs last year were all sort of making it out there. But Tears Getting Sober, it was in the same ilk as Billie Eilish, and she was very, very popular, and I do like Billie Eilish a lot, but that had a bit of character and charisma about it. It built beautifully, and there was a lovely orchestral bit at the end. It was a really, really nice song. I don't think it would have won. It was the favourite to win. I don't think it would have won, but it was certainly a very, very valiant effort. And I sort of think I'm sort of thinking it was a one-trick pony, to be honest, because every time I didn't follow the whole thing where she released 6 songs and got everyone to pick which one they wanted. But when I've heard snippets of them, they're all exactly the same. And even Billie Eilish can manage a bit of variety. Her songs are broadly pretty miserable, but at least there's some sort of audible difference to it. They're not just copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Even Lana Del Rey, I mean, she's the queen of misery. Even she manages a little bit of audible variety, and Victoria doesn't. And I think it's a mark of a not great musician if you can just try and spin the same thing out in 6 different varieties. So I think this is, after the year we've all had, this is absolutely the opposite of what I want from a Eurovision song. I think it's nothing to hold my attention. It's so miserable and I don't want it. And I'm more partial to fun songs anyway. And I wasn't expecting it to come along with the next Fuego, but I wasn't expecting to be told how every second I'm getting older, pretty much. It's just too miserable, and I can't be dealing with it tomorrow. I'm not here to get depressed. So no, thank you, Bulgaria.
Well, I'm going to go against the grain and say that I really like this entry. I like that it's kind of, I get that kind of where it's kind of placed in the semi-final is kind of not great because it's coming after quite a few kind of maybe more like downbeat songs. But I really like the way it's kind of stripped back. And I like that it's kind of a message at Eurovision that we don't necessarily always kind of get. And I don't necessarily think it is kind of a negative thing. I think it's maybe more kind of nostalgic and kind of thinking about kind of people that you've had in your life in the past. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And it's not something we always kind of see at Eurovision. I mean, if you go back to 2016 with Love, Love, Peace, Peace, those are essentially the 2 categories of song at Eurovision. So I think this offers something different kind of lyrically. For me, I think it's a really sweet song as well. And I do think I know you kind of said about last year's entry kind of building, but I think this builds as well. And I think the last kind of minute is really kind of lovely. So yeah, I like this entry. And I think it's kind of, we've made the comparison with Billie Eilish. I think a lot of people make that kind of music is popular at the moment. And even though, we've all had kind of a pretty crap year, I think people still liked Billie Eilish, so I don't see why people kind of won't like this at the same time. So I know, and I am more kind of partial to upbeat songs, but I do enjoy this. And, I don't think it's a winner, but I do think it deserves kind of credit musically because even though, maybe Victoria has kind of similar songs, but I think this is kind of quite special and different to what we usually see at Eurovision. And I think Bulgaria is now bringing a lot more to the contest, and I'm kind of glad that we'll see this kind of in the contest because, there's no other singer that kind of sounds quite like her. We've made comparisons with kind of Romania, but I think this is kind of different enough to Amnesia to kind of stand out.
Well, I think oh, sorry.
You go, James. You go. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to go a bit off topic in a way because I was just going to say, I think thinking about it there when you were talking, this song in a way strikes me as if the song, in the Eurovision, the film, you've got the song Husavik. It's almost as if like that, but without the luster. That's how I think I've sort of got in my head about it. And I think it had the potential to do that for me, but didn't. Sorry, that's just my 2 pence. But sorry, Jack, what you say?
Yeah, I was just going to add that I don't agree with any of that actually, Emily. And normally we're fairly on the same page and we respectfully agree to disagree. But I really think you've actually missed it. And I think we do. It's true. There's nothing that like it at Eurovision. That is true. But like, know your audience, know your time, and this is not the time to be sending miserable songs like this. And you say it builds, it does build to just a more intense version of what it was before. It's like the same song, which is squared. And that is not building, that's just becoming more intense of what it was. So I think she's quite seriously misjudged this.
I think that difference at Eurovision is good. And I do take your point about kind of knowing your audience, but I think, there's been such a kind of variety of songs at Eurovision that kind of do well. And I don't see kind of any reason. I mean, this is kind of a high in the bookies. It's kind of just, I think it's maybe like fifth. So I do think, this is something that I don't feel like there's any reason why an audience wouldn't kind of take to it. Yeah, so Bulgaria is performing 13th in the second semi-final. But how do we think it's going to do, and where would we put it in our personal rankings? James, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I haven't been very kind, to be honest. I've sort of given it 30, which is pretty poor. Again, just lacking something for me, and just not my cup of tea, not my cup of Earl Grey, I'm afraid.
You mean it's not your cup of Yorkshire tea, which is the only acceptable tea to be drinking? Jack,
Tech, please.
wrong again. Jack, what about you?
Okay, well, I've put my ranking down as 22, which on reflection, I don't really understand, because my comments have been quite a lot more negative than 22, and there are songs below it. I'm just looking at my list, and there are songs below it that I actually like quite a lot more. So I don't know whether I was under some form of amnesia or an anesthetic or something trying to listen to this, but it is my 22, and that's what I locked in 22. It is not my 22 anymore. It's quite a lot lower than that, and I think she just needs to cheer the hell up. And in terms of whether it will qualify, I think it will qualify, purely because this isn't a great semi-final, and I can probably name off the top of my head 7 songs that are worse than it.
Harsh. Well, for me, it's my number 15. So, I mean, it's still not even that high, considering I was kind of singing its praises. But I just think it deserves more credit than you two have given it. I do think it will. There's kind of not really much doubt in my mind that this will qualify, because it does stand out in that semi-final, because there are kind of quite a few entries that, are less good. So that kind of gives Bulgaria a total of 67. So kind of in our bottom kind of half of rankings, which I think is unjust, but whatever. But that's what we think. If you agree, if you disagree, feel free to let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell notification to get notified when we upload new content. But thank you for watching.